What's up everybody, you're here and welcome to another tutorial in Blender 3D, my other tutorial in Blender 3D. This is another series of tutorial that I'm gonna make. I did a new scene tutorial and I did the juice tutorial, so now I'm gonna do this one here. It's a beauty product scene, and did you just see what I did? Let me just say Control Z and bring back the cube. I hit X and it showed the delete, and I hit enter. Not enter, I just right clicked, left clicked it to delete that. Control Z, if you can see, X, delete. That's how you delete in Blender. And this workspace is actually just my custom workspace. If you see when I go to render, let me just see. When you go to rendered on this, you won't see anything because there's nothing on the scene. But if I shift A, cube, you will see the cube. It's gonna be lit with a little bit brighter light compared to the default Blender scene light. You can see how it's lit. It's lit with a HDR instead of a normal light that Blender by default setup. So I did this because I wanted it to be a little bit constant light between the viewport shading and rendered viewport, the shading and the viewport. So you can see that you don't see much difference because I set up the HDR on both to work on both. So only here on the default you see that there's nothing, you don't see anything, you just see the scene as it is before you start modeling. So I'll show you if you guys are interested to learn how that is done. So I'll show you in another tutorial, but today let me just delete that. First let me set up the screencast key so that you guys start seeing what I'm doing. Just gonna do that, not the shadow, what am I doing? Screencast keys, and then you should be able to see what I'm doing, but you don't. I hate this because I don't know why it keeps doing that. So set origin, there is it now. So I'm just gonna move it around to place it where I think it's gonna be not too distracting. Okay, so now here's the keys. You can see the keys that I'm pressing, but every time I close these things, everything goes away. Yeah, man, I hate it. Why does that? Okay, there's it. Oh no, there's it. If I let go, okay, there's it. Okay, it's fine. I think I shouldn't close it completely and take this thing away. When it's gone away completely, it disappears. But then let me just see if I change the viewport and set up my custom something, how it's gonna work. Because if I might need to have, let me just see. Okay, you just wanna see. Oh, there's it. And I can open another one. It's still there. Oh, that's interesting. It was actually giving me problems. So now I realize that you can't just get rid of the whole thing. You just have to leave something there, and then it will stick on the viewport where you set it up. So let me close this. Let me quickly close that. I'm opening another one instead of closing. Let me close that. Let me close that, and let me close that, and let me again close that. Okay, so by default we are here, X, delete. So the scene has nothing in it, and I'm going to start modeling. But before I do that, I'm going to hit 1 on the numpad. You can see that it's there. 1 to come to the front view, and shift A. I'm going to go to the empty and image, and then if you hit 7, you are going to the top view. You can see that the empty is there, but there's no image in it because I didn't put the image. If I go to the right over here, you can see that it says open. You can open the image that you want to open. So when you are going to model anything in Blender 3D, guys, you need to keep this in your mind, that you have to have your references done. So don't mind all these things on my desktop. I mean, like some of the stuff that I've been playing around with. So in the tutorial folder, I have all this. I've collected I've collected the reference images that I wanted to see what I want to model and do. So this is the one that I want to do. So if I hit open, select it and open it, you can see that the reference now, the empty is now turned into this reference image. You can scale it up or down or whatever, I don't care. And then, but now because you hit 7, you're on the top view. If you go to the front view, you don't see anything. So this is like front on, you can't see anything because it's laying flat. But if you say rotate Y 90, oh no, not Y, sorry, rotate X 90. What did I do? Rotate X 90, it stand up straight, and then you can have a better look at it. So if you look at it now, you see that this is like the origin right here in the middle. I prefer to have my models, whatever I'm modeling, to be right on this line here, everything. So I'm going to start with the first one, which is this one over here. I'm going to model that one first because it's the easiest, so that we can get rid of it as soon as possible. So I'm going to hit GZ to move the empty up to this top here, and let's see, something like this. And then I'm going to GX, I'm going to move it to the X-axis. I want this to be like almost in the center, and then Shift A, I'm going to add a circle. So that circle is here, but you can see that it's not really positioned the same way as this, because of this was shot from pretty much top front, but like higher angle. That's why you can see that it's not straight on, but this is laying flat. That is why it looks different. So I'm gonna scale it down. I don't care about that for now. I'm just gonna scale it down. Let me just scale it even more. I want it to be almost the same size. Let's see. If you go hit tab, okay, I think it's yeah, it's here, but let me just see if I can move this tab and move this again on the side. GX, I just want it to be a little bit much centered. Yeah, perfect. We can see that the shadow starts here and even here on this side. I think it's better now. I can't make it perfect because I'm just eyeballing it. So I'm going to zoom in by scrolling the middle right mouse wheel. Remember to look at this over here. I don't know if I should move it a little bit over as well, right to the corner. Let me just see the offset, the Y, let me just see the X. I'm gonna move it over here. Yeah, that should be fine. So I'm just going to pretend that I'm closing it, but I'll leave it over here. Yeah, that is fine. So I will select everything, extrude Z. I'm gonna go up. Let me just bring it over here and see. Let me just bring it over here and left click, and then now I'm going to alt click this and scale it in. I just want it to be a little bit like that, so that we can get a round curve. And I'm gonna Control R, add another loop cut, scale it a little bit, something like that. The rest will be done by the surface division modifier, so it doesn't really matter. So I'm gonna hit E for extrude, and then scale. I'm gonna scale it in, and E extrude, scale it in again. From the top view, you can see, you see half of it because of the this reference image here. If I switch it off, you'll see, if I switch off the empty, you can see there. Oh, because I've selected the front only. Control Z, Control Z, Control Z. Let me just do everything from scratch now, so I can extrude everything. Select everything and switch on the. You can see, you still see half because of this image is cutting it in half, because the other half is behind. Exactly what I want you to see. Okay, so let's go. Extrude Z, and then scale it a little bit out. Extrude Z again. Fine. And should I add another one here? Let me just Control R and add a loop cut here, and then scale it just ever so slightly. Let me just select it and scale it just outward a little bit outward. Yeah, there is it. and then select the bottom one by alt and left clicking. So extrude as, I'm scaling it in, extrude as again, scaling it in. So if you go up like that, I hope that this time if I hide the empty, yeah, so it's working. Right, extrude as, scaling it in, and then I can just say F for the face, so I'm closing it in. So now the bottom is closed, so I'm gonna come here, then I'm switching back on the reference image, and I'm gonna GZ, it's grab and Z axis. I'm gonna bring it up something like this. I'm gonna bring it over here. For me it's fine. So now the container is pretty much done, but it's not actually done because of I want it to have a little bit of thickness. So I can add the thickness. Should I add the thickness? Yeah, I'm gonna add the thickness by there using the modifier, and I'm gonna come to the modifier step here over here, and then add solidify. Solidify will make it a little bit thicker. You can see now it's starting to get thicker. If without the modifier, it's like, how do I switch off the modifier on and off? Yeah. So remove. This is remove. This is use the modifier. This is real time. I want to switch it on and off. Okay. Let's see. Duplicate now. Okay guys, I'm just going to leave the modifier on because I wanted to switch it on and off so that you guys can see. Let's see. Yeah, but the modifier is on. Without the modifier it was pretty thin. So I'm gonna add the thickness a little bit more. Something like this for me, the container. Let's say 0.05 thickness. It's too much. 0.02 thickness, that's fine. So the container is that thick, and then if you apply the modifier, that means you have this container having both the inward and the outward. But before that, okay, let me just apply it. Just gonna apply the modifier so that we have both thickness applied to it. If you hit tab now, you can see now it's got two layers, the inner layer and the outer layer. I did that because of I needed to do something again with the inner layer. So I'm just gonna go to where do I go? I'm gonna come here, select this, Shift D, duplicating the edge loop, and then scaling it inward a little bit. Let's see, scale it inward a little bit, and then extrude Z just a tad, and then select the top again, come to the front view, and I'm just going to extrude Z, just gonna bring it up a little bit, and then extrude S, scale it outward. I want it to be the same as this one, the outward, and then extrude Z, go up. It's actually helping me to create double layer. Double layer, I mean like it's helping me to create not double layer, something like two objects but they are disconnected. It's one object but both disconnected. We have the lead part having its own object. Let me say Control L, you'll see it's only selecting the lead. And then if I select this one vertex here, down here, Control L, it's selecting the bottom. So they are physically one item, because they are physically one item but they are not connected. So I don't know how to explain that, but it's one item. If you go to edit to object mode and you grab it, you can't select one. It's one because it's one item. But when you are in edit mode, you can select them separately. So if you ever want to do something, maybe move this one up a little bit, you can move it, but it's still connected to the other one. So I'm going to select this again, and then extrude Z, go up a little bit, something like this from the front view, and scale it inward, extrude S, scale it inward again, and then now because you can see that it's got this raised part here, I'm gonna do that. So let's see if I hold down the middle mouse wheel and drag it and scale it out. I want to, that raised edge starts from pretty much like here. So I'm gonna say extrude Z, gonna move it up, scale it inward, it's too much, something like that. GZ a little bit down, and then extrude scale, going inside, extrude S again, and then come to the side view Z, wireframe, GZ. I want to make sure that it's coming to this, yeah, something like that. Z, solid state, so you can see it again, and then extrude S, move it in, and then F, so it's closed. The lid is closed. Tap, you can see that now it's closed, but it's very like what do you call it, it's very blocky. You can see that the lines are still there because it's not really smooth like this container. This container is pretty smooth, but this, because of how many vertices, the edges are going down like that, so you can actually see that. So in order to get rid of that, you have to add subdivision surface modifier again, which is this one over here. If you add it, it's going to smooth those hard edges a little bit. It's kind of weird how it's doing it like this, so you can see through now. That's fine. I'm gonna do it on 3 for both of them, and then object, shade smooth. So now it's smooth, but it's not really looking like that one because of this thing. It's not looking as sharper edges like that one. It looks very smooth out, and this also shows that it's now 2 objects. So I'm gonna fix that. So if you come to 1 side view, you can see the space is very big. So I'm going to hit enter, I'm in tab to go to edit mode, control R. If you add a loop cut and move it up, it's sharpening those edges. You can see now it's starting to look a little bit the way we want it to look, and then tap again. You can see now it's closing. Control R. I'm adding another loop cut and I'm moving it down. I'm moving it. Okay, I'm adding GG to move it down. Hit G twice and move it down. It makes it to tighten those edges a little bit. Tap. The container looks pretty close, except on top. On top, this is looking too smooth compared to that one. So I'm gonna hit enter again and add some loop cuts to tighten those edges again. Control R. I'm gonna add one here and move it outward closer to that, something like that, and Control R. I'm gonna add 2 over here, 2 loop cuts, something like this, and scale them on the z-axis. Scale them, okay, not on the z-axis. Let me just come closer and move them individually. This edge loop here, GG twice, move it down like so to tighten this area. Select that top one, GG twice, and move it up, something like so. The inward is gonna be tight. You can see now? Yes. So we're gonna do that with the other side as well. Control R, adding another loop cut here and moving it up. Okay, where's that? Where's the loop cut? Yeah, here's it. Just gonna not quite, yeah, something like that. It's fine. Control R, another loop cut here, and move it down. Okay, select that edge loop, G, move it down to tighten this side a little bit, and tap. Let's see, tap. It looks fine to me. I don't know if I should tighten the top as well, but it looks fine to me. The container is done. This is it, guys. The tutorial is pretty much over. Okay, actually I didn't do it right, because you can see that there's don't look as let me just see if I hide it. You can see this one is more curvy, but mine is not. So what I'm going to do is hit tab. We have to fix it. Now. Let's see what we can do. We can actually just move some loop cuts. Let me select this and select that. I want the loops. Shift select. Going to try and okay, let me just scale this in, this one in, scale it inward a little bit more, and GZ move it down a little bit, and then tap. Okay, perfect. Now it's the curve. You can see the curve a little bit better. Now it's curved, so perfect. Let's move on. And I don't know if I should hide it. Let me just hide this one for the moment, this one. And remember that our origin is here, so I'm going to take that one and move it down, because I want the origin to be there as well for the next second, so that we can scale it from the bottom when we want to. So I'm going to select the reference image, GZ, move it down to the origin, something like that, and then GX, I'm gonna move it over here, something like that, and then Shift A, another curve, another mesh, circle, and I prefer 16 of these vertex or vertices, not too many. So I'm gonna scale it down again, and I want it to be the same size as this, something like that. The bottle is about this size, so I'm gonna do that. And let me pause it for a second, guys. I'll be back in just a minute.